name is Carlos, and today I'm here with David from
Shockboard Systems.
There we go. So today we're going to be talking about his new system, the Shockbox and the trick stick.
That's right.
So without further ado, let's go. Alright guys, so we're back and we're going to be talking to David about this Shockboard systems. But before we get to that, what is Shockboard systems?
Shockboard Systems is a brand new company, and we have invented systems for your e-board platform, a suspension system and a control point grip and handle system, and we'll get into the details and specifics on their uses and the advantages and the performance attributes of both of these things.
Okay.
Brand new company, and we're launching, I guess I can go ahead and say that, we're launching in September, hopefully the very end of September, which is this month now. So if you're watching that, it might already be pre-sales and pre-orders, which is what we're going to be doing and targeting for the end of September. It might be the first week of October.
Nice. What are the components? I mean, like,
So
we talk about a trick stick.
Yes, so we have two things right now, and there's an iteration on one of them, but it's the Shockbox and the trick stick. Two different items for sale. One, the Shockbox is a suspension system that has independent travel. And the trick stick is, again, a control point system that goes on the top of your board.
So here's the trick stick, Carlos.
Oh, fantastic!
Here's the trick stick. Okay. So as you can see, it's mounted on the top of the board.
Right.
It mounts, the whole system mounts to the top of the base plate. All the ubiquitous type of pivots with the DKP assembly and the TKP assemblies out there on most of the boards, not a mountain board platform, but with the longboard deck, e-board, belt drive, even gear drive. As long as you have this type of profile, it can be a drop down, it could be a drop through, but you have that common base plate with that screw pattern. The trick stick just goes right onto that. In the kit that you get, you'll get longer screws, so you can accommodate different board thicknesses and different positions of the top plate with the truck assembly that you have, or that we even sell, but we can get into that later.
Right.
So it mounts to that. It's very adaptable. Like I said, it goes on a lot of different boards. The whole point of the trick stick is a control point. It allows you to control the board as a sort of half binding with your foot, and you can also reposition the grip, and you can use it as a control point for your hand when you want your board in tow, as a pedestrian, or you're getting out of your house and you want to pull your board out, or you're getting on the subway, or you're walking down the sidewalk, you're walking in the store, and you just want a convenient, clean place to pull your board. So we'll spin it around and we can show you and give you an example of what's going on. One further thing to point out is that we have a custom grip. So it's a TPE, which is the common just soft type of overmolding that you find on mountain bike grips, bike grips. Same kind of material, but the profile is really special. So you have a contour that fits the top instep of your foot, which is the top part of your foot. But let's go to the passive position, I like to call that.
Yeah.
So if you buy one of these and you mount it, one of the cool, convenient things about it is you don't have to use it as a control point for your foot. You can just spin it out of the way.
Right.
So the passive position would be where it's not in use and you're just, not going to utilize it for whatever reason. You're just chilling, you're riding, you don't want to have a half binding, and you're riding your board, obviously you don't need to pull it.
Right.
So you just position it forward or backward, depending on where you have it on your board, front or back, because you can have it in both places. And it's just there until you want to use it. So let's say you're on a trail, you're getting kind of hardcore, you want to have control with your foot. You would just spin it all the way around to the detent position that's appropriate for your riding style, either left foot forward or right foot forward, because it's got a slight angle that you can see. So as it's example here, this would be a left foot forward or regular footed position, not the goofy footed position. Your foot goes right underneath it, and you can just now pull up on it. It also stabilizes, kind of locks your foot in a little bit better.
Right. So it's totally customizable for the rider.
Exactly. You can reposition it for these two different uses.
Nice.
And when you don't, so either position goofy or regular foot. And again, you want to control, you want to get out of the way and not use it in position to the front. Or you can splay out at a 45-degree angle like this, and that's convenient for grabbing and towing on either side of your board, either the left side of your board or the right side of the board. One other thing to note is that the custom grip can be turned and pivoted so that it slopes to the contour of the top of your foot. Right now you can see it's splayed and tweaked out a little bit to the side. That's just to optimize control and contact for the left foot. If you're a regular footed rider, right, your left foot would go here, the instep slopes down. So that pitch matches the slope of your foot to give you a better, more comfortable fit and contact.
What if you have a big ass foot?
Well, you can raise it. Here's the cool thing. You have a big ass foot, right? Congratulations.
Right?
There are spacers that come with the kit. So you can raise and lower this during the install when you put it on your board to accommodate different foot sizes. The large foot, the small foot. You can also slide it forward and back
with this guy that we've taken off.
Right.
So you can also see the underpinnings, as it were, with the trick stick. It comes with all these components. It's going to be pre-assembled pretty much, but the grip you will tighten up into position depending on where you want it for the contact of your foot. Orientation for goofy footed riders or regular footed riders. But that's part of the adjustability. The other component of adjustability has to do with this top plate, this pivot plate, setting on our base plate, and you constrain it and you secure it with an M8 screw, but you have a forward and backward adjustability for inboard or outboard depending on where you want to position it for the handle.
So you can move it
forward and you would just tighten it into place depending on the profile of your board and where it's optimized for your foot. So you can adjust it outboard or inboard depending on the position and profile of your personal board or your personal preference. So yeah, those are all adjustable features that make it adaptable to different riders and different boards, including the spacers, which we don't have on this board, but it comes with it, so you can raise and lower it to give yourself 15 additional millimeters of height in the increment of 5, 10, or 15, depending on how you stack the spacers, which will be positioned underneath our base plate right here. The other thing you can see when this top portion is taken off is the example of how we're utilizing just a common geometry of these fasteners for every base plate. You can just see there's 4 screws. Everyone's really familiar with that on their boards. That's all you're using. You're using that standard screw spacing, so it goes on all kinds of base plates. They're all similar. This is pretty much standard spacing. So we give you longer screws to accommodate different heights. Those come in.
So whenever you buy it, does it comes assembled?
It comes pre-assembled like this, but you'll actually
have to
do the last assembly is really once you put our base plate configuration here and attach this essentially permanently to the base plate of your truck system, wherever that's positioned, you just finally drop down the top part of the assembly and you just fasten it with this M8 screw.
So it's like a plug and play.
It's a plug and play.
Yeah.
Pretty much, exactly.
That's so easy.
It's very easy. And now on this one, you can see there's an additional component that's a little bit different. It's just a supplemental component. It's just a foot plate, like a foot stop. And most people would probably utilize this best in the rear position of their board. It take off fast accelerations where they want to brace their foot for footing. And it's you can utilize this while the trick stick's in its passive position. So if you spin the handle out of the way, then you can have a different sort of riding style. You can brace. You can also use it when the trick stick is turned around and you have it as a control point for your foot. And you can do it front or back. But this will come with the kit too. You can use that at the attachment point given, or you could not use it, just whatever your preference is.
You told me there's an extra position that James was talking to you about to like kind of like flipped it.
Oh yeah. So there's one interesting thing that was not sort of baked in, so to speak, with the intention of this product, but you can use these as a sideways kickstand. So there's not a detent. So I guess for viewers that are not familiar with that word and its purposeful definition, a detent is just a mechanical position that's secure in any mechanism that allows you to have a specified point or position. So it clicks into place. When you hear this click,
I feel like you were directing that.
It's a detent.
That part to me.
Well, I'm saying that because the kickstand position doesn't have a detent. Okay. So you won't lock it into one of the 5 positional,
placement points where it clicks, you would just go 90 degrees on either side of your board and just slowly tip your board over and it just stands up.
We're back!
We're back.
We're back! We didn't really disappear for long for you audience members.
Yeah, it took.
But Carlos and I, we just freaking ran a marathon. We picked
Right.
up a few things and ran some errands.
Yeah. Went to Arizona.
Fucking took the kids to
Yeah.
the pool.
Yeah, and then we went up to North Carolina.
Yeah, we can't. There's stuff we can't talk about.
Cow tipping.
Cow tipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We did cow tipping, right?
Yeah.
Right on. Except there wasn't cows.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we flipped this bastard upside down.
Right.
We can bleep that out later. We flipped this nice board upside down. And so we can show you exactly what goes on with the suspension system. So here's the suspension system. This is the Shockbox. And this is where all the magic happens with the independent travel. So let me turn it around here.
Right.
So I'll just basically explain the mechanical basics and premise of the whole system. So the inspiration for the Shockbox, you want me to go over the inspiration?
Yes,
So let me talk a
please
little
do.
bit about that, and we can just let this sit here. And
Where
we
did this
can read
all
this.
came from?
So I guess part of the origin story here is my move to California, which hasn't completely happened yet. But about 2.5, well, I guess going on 3 years ago, my wife and I decided we wanted to live the California lifestyle. We had both lived here, actually, in the past, way back in the freaking 80s.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I graduated high school in the 80s. So did my wife.
Woo.
We didn't know each other back then, but it's kind of funny that she was living in Redlands. She's just a little bit older than me, a couple years. I was living in Valencia,
Right.
which is Santa Clarita Valley, north of LA.
Right.
I was an Air Force brat, so I lived all different places, but my final push in high school was up there. Anyway, we'd been to California, we lived all over the place. I lived everywhere. We met in Colorado, but we decided we want to move back here and live the ocean, Pacific Ocean, Southern California lifestyle,
Right.
and get rid of winters in Colorado.
Oh my God.
Beautiful state, but we're done with winters. So during our push to move here, we had sold our house, we were getting ready to go. I thought it would be a great idea to get an electric skateboard because
Right.
I'd heard about it and seen about it. I hadn't done a lot of research, but I'm like, oh my God, what a great place to have a skateboard. I can use it pretty much all year
Right.
round as long as it's not raining. And how cool will that be? Like to cruise by the ocean, whatever. So I looked online. I got one. I didn't know the all-terrain thing was really a thing, so I got the all-terrain board and I took it out on a trail near my house and was so geeked out because
Mind blown.
I was riding on the dirt.
Right.
Skateboarding on the dirt. It was awesome. I got the Backfire Ranger, right? So it was an in-hub motor setup, but it was still really cool. I still have the board.
Right.
I have the systems on the board. We make the systems actually to be adaptable to that board. It's got the in-hub motor in the back.
Nice.
Not a lot of torque, but it's a cool board. That was my first experience.
Right.
So I got the board, got on the trail, and then I realized immediately how cool it would be if I had looked a little bit further and decided to get a board that had suspension system on it. I'm like, well, that's the next obvious step, right? Yeah, all-terrain board, big wheels, everything. It was great. I was on the trail, but it was a little rough. I'm not going to lie, right? Just a regular hanger. I mean, adapted for the all-terrain platform with the bigger wheels. In this case, it wasn't pneumatics either.
Right.
And it was doing a decent job. It wasn't doing an outstanding job. I was still having my mind blown. So I realized that I thought I had made a mistake. I should have looked for a board with suspension system on it.
Right.
And I immediately went back home after my cool ass trail ride and looked for a board that didn't really exist.
Right.
That I found out, right? So the
Yeah.
only thing that came up during my search about 3 years ago, I think it's about 3 years ago now, was the Baja board.
Right.
A beast of a board. I think it is a company out of Australia, I think.
Right.
That board was ginormous. It was really expensive. I was like, okay, there's no way I'm going to get this board. It was really heavy. It was just beyond my budget. It
Right.
really wasn't something I was looking for. It didn't seem a lot of
Not
really
affordable.
practical.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot about it, but
How much was it?
I think it might have been pushing $4,000. I know it had to be over $3,000, right? And you know, it was easily twice the amount I paid for the Ranger. And the other thing is, I was looking at the specs. I just remember it being heavy. It was heavy, right? It was heavy. It was bulky. I mean, yeah, it had suspension, had coilovers, adapted from just every ubiquitous vehicle out there that's a car or a
Right.
truck or a go-kart. It's proven, right? A coilover shock is awesome. But it was almost an immediate epiphany for me that you could create a system on a skateboard that would use a torsion spring instead of a coilover spring.
Right.
And then you could just configure it with a radial arm, meaning that it could just be an arm that moves through an arc or a radius
Right.
instead of a control arm that's moving up and down like a wishbone suspension,
Right.
which is utilized in coilovers. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and you can scale it down, which was done for the Baja board and done even, I think, in my opinion, more brilliantly and more efficiently and more optimized with the Propel Endeavor that didn't exist when I was looking for it. Actually, that came out
Right.
during my whole journey when I was making this. That board launched about halfway through my design,
Right.
which gave me a little bit of a panic. But since then, I've been assured by my own experience and other people's experience that my system is great for a lot of
Right.
reasons we'll get into.
Right. And the great thing about it is that that was 3 years ago.
That was 3 years ago when I got my first board, and I hadn't
it's
started.
still
the journey.
different and not out there.
Yeah, so I look. So part of it, I'll try to be more concise because it's been a long, crazy journey
Right.
that I decided to pull the trigger on about 2.5 years ago. So
Right.
after about 6 months of trying to really think about this, I decided I was going to go ahead and actually try to engineer this. And I got a CAD program to do it. I got a subscription and a licensing for a product out there and learned it. Now I'm really
committed.
I totally committed to it.
Completely.
But the idea, I mean, I sketched it down on paper. Now, I'm not an engineer by trade. I did come from a construction background, but I don't have a degree in engineering. But I've always been very interested in all things mechanical and do
Right.
so many things myself. And the construction trade, frankly, I mean, you have to have a pretty heavy skill set if you're going to do
Right.
really good quality work. So there's a lot of real engineering, let's say, that goes into it, even if you're just practicing a skill or a trade.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be an architect, but it certainly helps to have that mindset. It helps to have that aptitude, let's say. So I applied my 50 plus years of life experience to tackling the engineering on this, and part of that is just motivation, right? Like anything.
Right.
If you're really motivated and excited about something, you'll find a way. You'll persevere. And so that's what I did.
Yeah, no, you kind of like sat down and this all rushed through.
I really did, because I thought I really saw this being not only a viable idea, but one that I thought was necessary for someone like me. So here's the thing, right? I really wanted an electric skateboard, an all-terrain setup, because it allows you to do so much more than just a regular urethane wheel setup, right? You can go on trails, and that was really my prime directive.
Right.
I really wanted to explore trails. I wanted to explore trails, and I wanted to have better performance, but I didn't want the Baja board.
Right.
I wanted something that didn't exist. It was this in-between hybrid world.
Right.
And I thought this idea that I had that was just rolling around in my head about radial arm torsion springs was completely unrealized, because it was scalable to this system. Now, this kind of suspension would not be practical if it was
Right.
scaled up. It would just be too heavy. It would be obsolete, right?
Right.
Coilover makes more sense. But because it's so simple, and because when you scale it down, it doesn't have those detractors of being overly heavy or anything else, because of the size of the platform, it really shines. I mean, maybe that's a bit of a boastful statement,
No.
but I'm not the only one
No, I have
having that opinion, forming
we
that
have gone
opinion.
on rides.
It's been pretty
And
awesome.
I will display that video later on the same channel, but my mind was blown. Like it's something that I cannot explain, that you have to try for your own self. I'm gonna show you guys the best I can on my videos, but the board behaves completely different, like as
Yeah.
a regular skateboard
Right.
would on different terrain.
And it's really a trail animal. Now, here's the thing: this isn't gonna make your experience on the street horrible, right?
Mhm.
But it's a different animal. It's a different
Yeah.
experience. It's probably not going to be for everyone.
Yeah.
But it isn't a detractor on
Yeah.
the street either.
Yeah,
In
no.
fact, I would argue that there's more available to you.
Mm-hmm.
on the street as far as features, and you could even go as far to say that there's this new component of urban assault, let's say, right? Now you can launch off stairs, a little bit more controlled, you can do heavy features, especially with the complement of the trick stick. These two things really work great together. But let's get back into some of the basics of the system. So torsion springs and radial arms. Now you don't see any of these things here because they're all contained in mostly this center component here, this component body. Now all these things are CNC 6061 T6 aluminum. The T6 has to do with a tempering process that further strengthens that particular material, aluminum. 6061 is pretty much a standard, ubiquitous standard with any CNC manufacturing. It's stronger, it has better material properties as an aluminum than just cast or forged. So you'll see all these companies now coming out with CNC trucks, so it allows you greater precision, but also it's a stronger aluminum form. So that's what all these are. There's one component on the inside that's 7075 T6, which is about 40% stronger, and that's one thing you can kind of see through our slot here. And that I've defined as a pivot axle component. So I don't want to get into a lot of the details with the inner workings, but I'll go over the basic principles. So the center component right here that I was describing is the inspiration for the name Shockbox. So it's kind of a box-like feature that houses most of the mechanisms here that are responsible for allowing the travel to happen. So there's two torsion springs on either side, and if someone doesn't know what a torsion spring is, the best way to maybe example something they're already familiar with would be a clothespin. Or, my God, even right here. I'm just pull this off your wall.
Oh, see?
I
was ready.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is a torsion spring.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I totally planned that.
So,
you know.
yeah, that was so weird, dude.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
You're awesome, dude.
Great.
So here's a torsion spring, right? In a simple form. This is what it does. It just torques, or it goes through this torque, right? Rather than a compression spring that most people know with a coilover. Or a tension type spring. But anyway, so it's a torsion spring. So that's how it works in here. Now, obviously, it's configured a little bit differently, but the basic principle is the same. So there's two torsion springs, and they're constrained with the center component. And I'll get to this crazy looking handle sticking out, because obviously you don't ride with that. And then each arm will move independently. I'm not going to show you a little bit of the movement, but I can't really move it totally through there. I'll try a little bit here, because it's not totally stiffened up yet, but you can see that each one of these wings, truck wings as I call them, move independently of one another and are constrained also in this little nested profile in here. So there's a bumper in here, so essentially it's a travel stop or a bump stop. So when they're at rest, when they're fully drooped down in their position here, they're stopped with that internal bumper component, and when they get fully compressed, they'll actually stop here. And that whole movement at the wheel is 40 millimeters of travel. So that's a pretty decent amount of travel. And they move independently again. So each wheel will conform to the ground underneath it, and you get the best performance value for a sprung suspension system. Meaning that a sprung system actually has a movement component in it rather than just a rigid axle. So it's actually traveling. There's the word through the movement. It's conforming. So you've got the truck wings, you've got the truck center, and then you've got the internal components here. Now this mysterious little freaking rod sticking out here is something you'll get in the kit, but you won't have to use right away. So this is a preload system, meaning that it'll be preloaded, or the springs will be loaded through the motion of this handle, and then it'll be set in place with this little hole you can see in the top here. A fastener will go in there and hold it. The preload allows you to gain a certain amount of stiffness or load value that's targeted with your system, meaning that the greater amount I preload it, and with a torsion spring, it's degrees of movement rather than millimeters or inches in a compression spring, but same principle. When I preload that and then constrain it, I will have effectively created a system that requires a greater amount of force to compress the spring or compel it through its movement with the increase of the preload. Meaning that, so the greater the preload, the stiffer it is, or the heavier the rider can be, or the more aggressive you can be as a rider. There's all suspension systems are like that. Mountain bikes are like that. There's air shock systems. So those systems, you get a greater amount of pressure in the system there. So you basically are preloading that with air pressure. For heavier riders, more aggressive riders, same principle here.
Pretty much another adaptable feature
for heavier riders.
Right. So if you're concerned about your height or your weight, this is like he already thought of that.
Yeah. So you can preload. Now on the website, which we don't have configured yet, you will actually choose your targeted performance value, but more so your rider weight.
Right.
So someone like my wife who's under 120 pounds, around 120 pounds, she'll get a preload which isn't as high of a degree set as I would on 190. So we're going to offer different preloads for different people, and you pick it up. Now you can always change those in the future too. That's one of the beauties of this thing. You can take it apart and you can change your preload by just flipping around a component. Now we're not going to go over any of that stuff because the instructional videos will be coming. And we'll go over all the nuts and bolts and the internals and take it apart, tear it down, and do all that. But just know that you can pick one of these targeted for your weight to optimize the performance value that you're going to get out of the suspension regarding its stiffness or its softness. If that makes any sense to people. I think it will, because a lot of people are familiar with mountain bikes, and that's kind of an easy just carryover. It's analogous to a mountain bike. So you'll get it, and you'll target your preload. You'll get it preloaded already, meaning that you don't have to do that. So when you get the kit, it'll already be set up, so you don't have to do any of the preloading yourself. But you will also get the handle, so if you want to change the preload, you can do that. But again, the details will be explained further in our tutorial videos. So just know that you basically are going to get it assembled like that, and you're not going to have to do anything. So it really is going to be plug and play, because you'll target that when you buy it. And we'll get into a few of the other details with these in a minute, but I just want an example how easy it is to actually put this on your board. Now, we do have our own SBS DKP, as I'm titling it, Shockboard Systems Double Kingpin. And we also are going to have, that we don't have a photograph on our website, and I don't know what the price point for this is going to be, but we also have our own SBS TKP. And the reason I'm making these is because some boards, and I'll example one board, like the X-Way Atlas Pro, has a very unique geometry on their DKP that actually doesn't fit, or it's not like most others. But honestly, most other boards, and we'll have a list of all of those boards on our website under the drop-down menu for compatibility. They'll be listed that we've proven the compatibility. They really are plug and play, meaning that this geometry right here that you see example, even on our own TKP or our own DKP, and the profile here on the Shockbox is just adaptable, meaning it'll go right on it. So if I had this board and it was an Evolve board, it goes right on their DKP. If I have this and it's a Meepo board, it goes right on their DKP. If I have this and it's an owned board and that's their TKP, it goes right on there. You don't need to buy ours. We do have ours, which are CNC and very nice. But I'm just explaining that too, because those will be available. And also, that's what I have on here, just so people know. But this could just easily be Evolve's DKP, or it could be Endurance, the Endurance board from Mike at M Boards. It goes right on theirs too. So all you would do is take your hanger off, which we don't have here, so you can just look at this and go, oh, the hanger's off, you're great. So you take your hanger off, and obviously you're going to take your wheels and motors off. And then you're just going to drop ours right on. It just goes right on there, and then you put your bushings on. So you would just make sure that this bushing is on here. You drop this critter right on here. You just snug it up right in that pivot cup, and then you just put your stuff on. And of course, because I'm on camera, my little pin's gonna keep dropping in there. But you get the point, right? You just put it on, you put it on, and you tighten it up, and then you're ready to go. It really is that simple. This is one of the great benefits of both of these systems. It goes right on these boards. Now, I'm gonna example that with propels Endeavor, right? It's their proprietary board. It's a coilover suspension system. It's great, but if you want to get a suspension board from them, that's their board. You can have almost any board right now.
Right.
That's a long board setup. You can put our system on.
Right.
So you can have any one of those boards, and you can make it a fully suspended board.
You don't have to buy a board that is specific
Right.
For mountain trailing
No,
or
you
stuff.
can make
you
yours.
you can just buy this
Yeah.
and your boards automatically
You
become pretty much a
You can make yours a better trail
Mountain
board. You can make
board,
a
yeah.
better urban assault board. You can make it a more comfortable ride if that's all
Yeah.
you're interested in. A more
Yeah.
fun ride, right? Yeah, it goes on so many boards. It's crazy. And in fact, if it's just a regular profile board like this, whether it's drop down or not, meaning it's not a mountain board with the turned up nose and tail, and you don't have a TKP or DKP that's adaptable, again, you just buy ours. You're not it's almost limitless.
right.
That type of board profile is not going to disappear.
Right.
I mean, because it's just so practical, it's
Right.
proven, it's awesome. Those are most of the boards out there.
Right.
Most of the boards aren't like a Trampa board, or Transit has both boards, but you know what I mean, like a mountain board profile. But you know what? You can turn your board into something that compete pretty well with a mountain board profile.
Right.
In fact, you know what? I would even venture to say some of those fully suspended boards, some of the riders that we've been having riding really like their board now that they have the systems on them, both the trick stick and the suspension system, and they are hammering the hell out of trails and really enjoying it and benefiting from the
I
performance.
just want to say that I
value.
have seen it and I have tried it, and it's like nothing I've ever tried before. This is truly one small step for man, one huge step for mankind.
For board kind.
For both kind.
Yeah, I mean,
Man,
dude,
not
honestly,
for
Carlos,
real.
it's,
It is.
It's something I wanted, right? This is what I wanted. I wanted my board to perform better. I wanted suspension system, and I wanted a binding component, right? I didn't want to commit to a full binding, and that was the inspiration for the handle, which I had always floated around in my head, but the handle evolved during my journey with this.
Right.
While I was making this was sort of on the back burner, but I was
Right.
playing around with it while I was doing this, and when I got close to the final design on this, I freaking hammered that thing out in about a
Right.
week. Now, I know that seems a little crazy, but I pretty much did.
Yeah, but that's the great thing, man. That it actually works.
It does work.
And the crazy thing about it is that it keeps surprising us as how it behaves.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it behaves like a snowboard.
It's floaty.
It's
you
floaty.
have this third dimensional
Yeah.
components.
It's-
It's vertical up and down that didn't exist. Now it's unnerving at first. I got to be honest. Like and I don't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I have more experience now on e-boards, but I know I'm not as experienced as you or a lot of other people out
Right.
there. But I do snowboard. And the best way I can describe it to people, if you do snowboard, it's like being in powder. So now you have this lift and tilt, which again is unnerving at first, but I mean, honestly, every system out there, including mountain bikes back in the day in the 90s, people were dragging their feet when suspension was introduced.
Right.
But it's proven. Anything that has sprung suspension system and it is actually mechanically stable and viable to some extent, meaning it has a decent mechanical design, it's not going to just break down.
Right.
It's a benefit. It's
is.
absolutely benefit.
And it is. And
on
it,
the trail,
and
especially.
you
That's
can
really it.
feel it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the crazy thing about it, because the way, like I said, the way it behaves, the way you feel it is like nothing I've ever seen before. Because like whenever you go through these different terrain features, like your mind automatically tells you, no, that's not possible.
It's gonna
I'm
get-
not gonna be able to make it.
Right. You look at these rock
But,
guards we've
yeah,
been doing it,
but-
and you're like, oh, it's crazy. I'm going to
Yeah.
get so much chatter. My board's going to
Right.
get squirrely. I'm
But
not
the-
going to be able to control it, but you do.
That's the thing. Whenever you
behaves.
go through
It's
this
crazy.
different terrain that you think a normal skateboard cannot, go through, you actually go through it like nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
It's insane, like the way it behaves. Like I'm telling you, you guys gotta try this out.
Control your board.
Yeah, and I feel like this is gonna be trending. Like
I hope so.
trail riding.
Trail riding
Will be a thing.
That's
group
the target.
Trail riding
That's the target.
will be a thing.
I hope so because I think that's where all the fun is.
This is so much fun. Like I went first time I went.
It was so fun.
I had so much. I couldn't believe it.
You were laughing.
I even fell like 2 times.
That first hill we went.
Oh my god! Yeah.
You're like, what in the hell? I heard you. It was
it was like okay. So this is the crazy thing. Like, and this is the best way I can explain it for you guys that have snowboard. Have you ever snowboard up a hill? That's I know that the answer is no, but like. That's exactly how it feels, you know. That's the crazy thing about it, and I was just like
powered snowboard.
Wow,
it's weird, but it's awesome.
It's awesome. It is awesome.
It takes some getting used to, but I mean, I would strongly argue for the benefit, especially for trail riding.
Mm-hmm.
That was really the inspiration for this.
Yeah,
it's just better trail riding, crazy features. I mean, features within reason, but stuff that I was struggling with before on my board, and maybe it was lack of my experience, but I really feel like the board was inadequate for the task, and that was really a strong inspiration for just getting into this and making it happen because I wanted these things for myself. Yeah. And they just didn't exist.
No, I completely understand you. I get you.
Let's show this.
This is the veteran.
So I've been riding the heck out of this, and it's worth showing everyone there, the viewers, that we have not been taking it easy.
Right.
I mean,
you can see. We can tell.
I have been like this is off.
How many miles, more or less?
So I know this is probably over 100 miles on gnarly trails, and I know I put more than that overall, but I can easily say this is definitely 100 miles plus on really crazy trails. Meaning, like I was intentionally hitting rocks. I mean, if I saw something.
You will go for it.
That was going to be something that people be like, I'm not going to hit that because I don't want to break my board. I would hit it on purpose.
Right.
And you can see that, I mean, God, it's just, and it's still going strong. I haven't taken this apart. I took it off my board because I wanted to have the pretty ones to show. Right, for your viewers. But I brought these too because this is a proven example.
So they can see the durability on it.
Crazy.
Like, it's insane.
This is the same thing that one of our riders has been jumping on Urban Assault and trails too. I mean, off of huge features, stuff that I can't do.
Right.
I mean, we're talking many feet. Some of this stuff has been 5 feet. Do it. Okay, so. We just showed you the gnarly rear setup. In fact, I'm going to grab it again because we can make a comparative view. So also keep in mind, this one's already preloaded. This is preloaded to 60 degrees, which means nothing to people right now, but they'll become familiar.
Yeah, they'll understand.
They'll understand on the website. That's just one of the heavier settings for a heavier rider like me, and then I'm 190. This one hasn't been preloaded yet. You can see the preload handle, and I only have it in there to constrain it for us showing the viewers.
Right.
Now, this is the fresh one, this is the older one. I'm just showing a difference. I'm going to point out a few features here that are unique to the belt drive assembly.
Right.
So this would be what we would call the front one, or the one that is just the freewheel version, right? It doesn't have a drivetrain assembly to it, so the wheels just spin freely.
Right.
And then we'll get into the axles too, because that's something we need to follow up on. This one is the belt drive motor configuration. So when you get on our website, you look at the Shockbox. Right now we have 2 configurations. One is the hub motor drive, which is really focused for the Ranger X3, and I believe it'll fit the X2, but I know it's confirmed on the X3, meaning it's in hub wheel, doesn't have the motor mounts. And then we have this one, the Shockbox belt drive.
Right.
So this will fit almost all belt drives, and the reason it'll fit is because you just take your motors off, and we have compatibility for different motors too, so it fits a wide range of different sized motors. Now some of the really beastly motors, maybe not, but I know it fits 63 up to 65 diameter cans, and then it will fit, I think, up to 84.
Right.
So you could get up to this, I don't know if a 65, 84 exists, but you could get that on here.
And side note on that, quick side note, you do have compatibility list.
I have compatibility
in the
with
website.
the motors. Yeah. So
Yeah.
on the website, when you pull up any one of these systems, we'll have drop-down menus under the cart, right, where
Mhm.
you do it, and you can see specifications. So to list basically the materials that are used, CNC materials, and it'll have dimensions on there, like the width of the axle.
Right.
And as a side note, these are actually wider than most boards. These are 13 and a half inches wide.
Right.
I think that's what it is. I know the millimeters, 350 millimeters. Anyway, I think. Don't quote me on that. Pull up the specs, show it on the screen.
Go to the website,
Carlos
okay?
work is magic. So
Yeah.
yes, we do have all that. We have specs, we have compatibility, and we have what's included.
Definitely.
So all that'll be shown. We're going to add a lot more pictures too. So right now we have the
Right.
basic pictures up there, but we're going to have a lot more photos. So in this rear assembly for the belt drive, you can
Right.
see that there's a little bit different configuration on the rail arm. Now, same components exist inside, and actually the center component is the same with front and back, so those are
Right.
interchangeable. Those are the same. And the compatibility is the same. They fit all the same stuff. This just happens to be the belt drive. So you have the motor mounts here, right? And they fit all those motors. You'll get belts included with the kit. So you'll get belts that fit a 66 tooth pulley on the wheel.
Right.
You'll get some that fit at 58, and then some smaller ones. So you get 3 different sizes of belts that will fit most
Right.
configurations on boards. Now, most people are going to use this for all terrain, right? So they're going to
Right.
have the bigger wheels and the bigger pulleys. So most of those
Right.
are going to fall somewhere with the 66, the 60, or the 58 tooth.
Yeah.
But we are going to include the smaller one for, I think it's 44. I can't remember. Again, it's on the website.
Right.
So
Look
if you
it
have
up.
right, so if you have big urethanes, like if you have the Mad wheels or Mad Eastgate
Right.
wheels, which are awesome, and you just want to run those urethanes for the street, yes, you will have belts for those motors.
Yeah.
But
I'll add the
Yeah.
website link on the underneath in the information of this video. I got you guys.
for sure. And then let's just talk about the back real quick. So also you see these little critters sitting out here, and these are the motor guards. Now the motor guard kit will be sold individually, and I think most board companies do that. So we decided to go ahead and sell those individually, but I just have them on here.
Right.
It's a two-part. It's a two basic piece component, but there's hardware that's going to be included, and I left them off here so that I can
Right.
show you an example of what goes on. So it's actually the same component on either side. So these are actually the same form, and you can see in each one of these there's 2 holes, and you just line it up with the hole that's tapped in the back of each wing. You can't get it wrong, by the way. The position will only allow you to use the right hole. It's just the outer hole on each one, but again, it's the same component, so there's no right or left bias. It's the same with both, same with the plate.
So if you get
Which
it
is really
wrong,
simple.
you're on another
You
level.
can't get it wrong.
Okay.
It's really easy. I engineered it that way, so you don't have to worry about right or left.
If you know somebody that got it wrong, put it on the comments.
You're gonna have
I'm
to,
making
because
famous.
I don't know how you could.
I'm making famous.
If you try to position this out, it's gonna hit the truck motor, and so you're just
Right.
It's easy to line it up. It'll come with all the hardware and everything, but I left this apart because then you'll just mount basically the frame portion of it, and then you'll just mount the plate, which
Right.
actually will come with this scratch cover. Now I'm calling this a scratch cover because this really is not. It's not implemented or on here to keep things looking pretty on a trail or to help with trail abuse, which is really what the motor guard's all about, to keep your
Right.
motor safe. It's actually, you can prop your board up, and I'm sure you can supplement examples on that, Carlos,
Right.
with the video, but when you want to prop your board up vertically, lean it against the wall, this is just to keep your floors from getting scratched. Like
Right.
if you have hardwood floors or you're in a store or something, that's all that's for. But it will come with the kit, and they are replaceable. So you can pop those off. Those are just actually nylon 12 3D printed, if you can believe it or not.
Nice.
Which is cool. So the other thing I'm going to show you with that are the gear covers. So the gear covers are also a 3D
Oh,
print
those
that
are
we're going
great.
to have on
Yeah.
our island. And now these just snap on. And there'll be tutorials for that video, but
That's
when you
great.
want to put them on, you just snap them into place. You don't have to use a fastener. And
Yeah, you don't have to use what's
No, there's no screws for
no
these.
screws.
There's no fastener.
Right, no
It just-
screws.
It just tensions in
Just
place.
snaps.
And we've had them, they really stay on pretty darn well. I haven't had any
Has
of them
somebody
pop
come
out.
up with this like idea? Because like
No.
I think this is great and
No,
very practical.
I
you
haven't
know?
seen anyone do this.
Yeah, that's great.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that caught my
We're trying-
attention a lot.
Trying to avoid, and we've done it. I've done a few. I say we, but I mean Shockboard Systems. But really, it's been a team of one. So I've engineered all this myself. One of the cool things I think is pretty cool. Yeah, that's redundant. One of the cool things about this, Carlos, on the motor mount is I just use one single fastener. Now, the follow-up question to that is, well, is that strong enough to hold your motor? Well, the nested profile is really taking all the force here.
Right.
So that's constraining it and keeping it in place, but dimensionally it's constrained here. So as it torques through, or it wants to be compelled into torquing movement, the profile and the shape is what's keeping this thing solid and configured. So you don't have to deal with 3 different screws. You don't have to deal with 3 different freaking nylon lock washers,
Right.
like the typical configuration. On a motor hanger, a motor mount for a rear hanger, that's usually what is used. And it makes sense with that
Right.
configuration, but we're only using one fastener. This will be something that the consumer will do because these will come in the kit, obviously, but they won't be fastened yet. So it's basically just a fastener there and fastener there using some thread locker, but that's it.
Nice.
Pretty easy. You snap on too. I mean, you don't have a whole lot of work to do with assembling them. I engineered so it would be really user-friendly, but also mechanically secure. And again,
Right.
we've proven a lot of these. So that is what I wanted to go over. One last thing that we're going to talk about that I didn't have at EastgateCon when we first saw these
Right.
are these sort of modular axles that I have in place. They're constrained with this M6 screw on the bottom side of these little cavities, and this is essentially what it is. So these are just hardened steel axles, just like you would find on almost any hanger. Some of the CNC hangers, like Omni, Eastgate, and other things, I know these are replaceable and removable. Well, that's what we've done here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually take these out and put them in. We will have a configuration for a 10 millimeter bearing axle. Right now, this is a step down that goes from 10 to 8, which is mostly what people have now. But I think the industry standard is moving towards a 10 millimeter axle because it's just stronger. But this is the same front and back too. That step down that we have for this configuration is just to appropriate the different dimension on the pulley, which is usually a 10 millimeter, and then the bearing is actually 8 millimeter on most wheels now. Again, the trend is going to 10 and 10, but you're not shut down with shockboard systems and the Shockbox. We're gonna have a 10 millimeter full axle available at launch. So you can buy this configuration depending on what you want to put on your board. If you have wheels that are 8 millimeter with that 10 millimeter bearing pulley, which is pretty ubiquitous, it's almost everywhere, you'll just get these in your cart. There's not gonna be a price difference either. You'll just choose at the point of sale which axle configuration you want.
You assemble it.
You just look at, I've got an 8 millimeter ID bearing on my wheel, that's what you'll get. Now, if you have the more rare 10 millimeter ID bearing on your wheel, you'll get the 10 millimeter axle. Or if you want to upgrade to a 10 millimeter axle because you're getting really aggressive on a trail because you got an awesome new system on there, and you want to get a 10 millimeter axle to be more rugged, then you can do that. You just change out your bearings and you basically and actually some wheels come with that now, larger bearing setup. So that's why we've done that. And I'm just exempling this here so you can see that there's this threaded hole here, and when you slip that in there, you just tighten it up. And I can show you on this one. Where'd I put it? Carlos, where is it? Where'd she go? Where's oh, here it is. Wait, is this it? Yes, this is it. I'm gonna show you. So this is one of my used gnarly ones. You just put it in here and then you just constrain it with that screw.
Nice.
Pretty easy peasy lemon squeezy. No big deal, right? So again, front and back is the same. You can see that step down. It's just a little bit of a reveal in the front, so you don't even have to use those little 8 millimeter bearing washers if you don't want to. and just put it in there. That's why there's a little reveal. And then the step down, of course, just works in the back because that's the configuration with most pulleys.
Nice.
The details will be about all that will be on tutorial videos.
Right.
I wanted to highlight that.
Yeah.
I also wanted to point this out real quick, if that's okay, Carlos.
Yes. Yes.
So regarding the gnarly abuse that we've been putting these systems in, that you've been witness to.
Right.
Right. As again is exampled by both these guys, right? The rear takes hits usually a little bit more often because I use the trick stick to wheelie over features, but
Right.
with the back, if I don't bunny hop in time, she gets most of the abuse. But
Right.
we've had one of our crazy riders
Right.
dropping off features, and I'm not exaggerating, have been 6 and 7 feet on a trail.
Definitely.
I can't believe this dude does this stuff.
He is being really testing.
He's really
the
testing it. I mean,
system.
okay, this guy
Yes.
is riding stuff that a fraction of a percent of
No,
people are
yeah,
riding. Like,
it's like-
I don't even think 1%
I
of people
don't-
are riding the way he is.
I don't even know nobody that rides like
Right,
that.
he's all out crazy. And we can name him by name later
Yeah.
on, but we'll keep him anonymous for now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was taking my board, and by the way, I've had 2 decks break on me. One I broke myself, and one
He
was
broke.
broken because, anyway. So you can see this axle that got bent at the step down location, and incidentally, this is why a lot of people are
Right.
going to 10 millimeters and why you will be able to get a 10 millimeter, because when you step it down to 8, it's just not as strong as a 10. But
Right.
here's the beauty, right? So this got bent because, and I have to qualify this, this on the board, these systems on the board have been hammered the hell out of, like stuff I can't even touch, right? So he came down and crashed a bunch of times nose first on the board that eventually busted, the deck busted, my systems didn't bug. The only thing that we've had to replace on my systems are this axle.
And just that.
Just this axle.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And it,
Just
like,
on the one side.
take into account the height,
Oh my God.
and how many times.
And how many miles previously he'd been doing this
Yes.
stuff. Like, it's just, and it was, seriously, it was a crazy, I don't know if I'm gonna have that on my video. I think we'll probably have that jump that did this
Yeah.
on our video for our website, maybe in the future.
Right.
We'll
But
see. I
the
don't
good
know.
thing about it is
Hey,
that
replace it.
you can just replace it. You
You
go into the
replace
website, you buy another one,
Buy
and
another
that's
one.
it. And
We'll have it
you
covered.
don't have to buy the whole system. You
Nope.
know, just that part
Yeah.
that maybe got bent
Right.
or maybe got affected.
You know,
So-
and this happens to this.
You
honestly,
have to go
this
through
does-
crazy.
right. This is extreme.
Yeah.
But if this had been a 10 millimeter axle, which you can choose, and we don't have it on our website, but we will, you can avoid this scenario if you're this particular guy that's doing these kind of drops. And honestly, most people are never gonna
No,
like it's just
to tell you the truth,
it's
like
insane.
at least
This
in
dude-
Southern California, like he's the only one that has seen.
I've never seen anyone. ride
Yeah.
one.
Like other than that, I've seen the guys in London getting crazy out there, but like not.
Yeah, and I'm you know, my features on trails that are intentionally groomed that way. I don't want to say they're not hardcore, but the stuff that our rider was launching off was just natural features. It wasn't even. It was off of the trail.
Right.
It wasn't part of the trail. It was just a freaking crazy
Right.
drop cliff thing. He's
It
like,
was
oh, I'm
a
gonna
cliff.
launch off
No,
of this.
it's incredible.
And anyway, that was
Yeah.
one of the things that finally did this axle in.
Yeah.
But it's
But,
because
yeah.
he was coming down crazy too. But
Yeah.
everything else intact. I haven't changed the springs. I
But that's
haven't
the
changed
thing.
the
It can
bumpers.
take the only thing.
I was impressed.
Yeah, the only thing that has been able to actually break out the system, like not even break,
Yeah, it was.
it was
bad.
bent.
And
And you
it
can
was-
replace, how much would this be?
I don't know yet, but not much, dude.
Not
I mean,
much,
it's gonna be-
I
it's-
guess.
it's
That's
not
a
gonna be
really good
cost
price,
prohibitive.
not much.
Not much.
But see the idea,
details on the website in the
yeah,
future.
yeah, you don't lose the whole system.
No.
You know, you don't break the whole system. You don't have to buy the whole thing. No,
and I mean, even look at this
That
this
piece.
truck wing. Its
Yeah.
truck wing is completely intact. There's nothing bent, nothing cracked.
Right.
Holy crap!
That's insane.
I really.
We'll show you the drop.
I
We'll
didn't-
show you the drop,
We'll hopefully
and
show
you'll
you.
see. You'll see.
It's crazy.
Yeah.